Grand Rising, everyone. It's Ron. Sunday, May the 3rd, 2026, a little after 11 a.m. We'll go ahead and get started and see where we are here. I was listening to the video and we started off yesterday talking about who do we pray to, and we got a lot of information, a lot of stuff about that. Nick started us off talking about focusing, setting your intentions and focusing and not looking for an object, not looking for some other being or something that you need to focus on to pray to, but just looking at the innerness, the setting your intent based on who you are and letting your attention be towards your desire. And everybody pretty much went to that direction. Pastor and Audrey and Kathy. Kathy talked about gratitude. Uh, going. This was a thing that really, one of the things anyway that grabbed me is one of my weaknesses is trying to seem like my frame of mind is different when I go in to meditate or to sit down. And uh, Nick talked about being still, and Kathy talked about gratitude, and Barbara talked about affirmations. And no matter what approach you use, you're setting your intent, and all of these things work. Uh, we talked about Pastor talked about the 21 days to change your trajectory in life, and making the choice of who you want to be, making your choice of seeing who if you want to be God or not, uh, and what that looks like to you. And it takes some of us a lot longer than it does others. So we talked about the 90-second rule, whether or not I have a negative thought about myself or about someone else. You have about 90 seconds for the brain to latch hold to that thing. So, uh, and the one that again that really captured me was the 21-day thing where you it may be my negativity needs to be something that I do and focus on more often as far as talking to myself. This is not who you are. And if I uh not if but when I do that for 21 days, it starts to become who I am. So we looked at all those things yesterday. We talked about whether you're talking or looking at a higher consciousness, as Audrey spoke of, changing the way you think, or all of these things are talking about the same thing, and that's being seeing yourself being that higher awareness, or uh, there's another word the pastor uses all the time, and I can't think of it right now, but a lot of stuff, just a lot of stuff said. I'm sure I skipped something on yesterday. Uh, but any questions? Oh, yeah, one was very important is what Sheldon and Nick talked about when they talked about putting the cart before the horse. That is using words. You meditate and you're looking at the here and now, but when you use words, it kind of I see it, but I can't say it. You're creating something that you want to happen in the future, whereas you've already created this thing by focusing on it. You go back and you do something else with words, and we're really uh, sort of confusing ourselves when we do that. But any thoughts or questions? Like I said, a lot was said, and I hope I didn't bring more confusion to it. Anybody?
Ron,
Yes, sir.
as opposed to a weakness, it is an obstacle because it's not a weakness.
Okay, put it all together again
You were talking about your meditating, and you said
uh-huh.
that one of your weaknesses
Okay, okay.
is an obstacle as opposed to a weakness.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
because um, that's one of the things we don't want to take possession of. That's weakness.
Okay, thank you. The other one yesterday that I thought, because I kind of highlighted some stuff I thought was really, really important is when you connected the light of the pineal gland to Genesis 1 and spoke that. I thought that was good too. But anyway, any thoughts or questions on any of that? You're on mute, George.
Yeah, grand rising, everyone. Yeah, Ron, I just wanted to mention that yesterday someone mentioned that our energy flows as our attention goes. And I
Okay.
think that in us being able to, again, establish that foundation is basically getting on that right frequency that we have the power to be on. So if it's a
Yeah.
situation where we know that we're facing any kind of challenges or obstacles, then how do I get on that frequency that I know, you know what I mean, that
Yeah.
would put me in that space and place so that that way I can breathe and bring in all of the, concepts that we know to be truth. So that's one way I look at it, that sometimes I could, be challenged, but I'm going to get in that frequency that I know that is that, what I mean, pineal gland, where we can just talk about being in that state of mind. So I just wanted to share those
Yeah.
thoughts as a beginning.
Thank you.
And George, um, when you was mentioning that about being on the right frequency, let us not forget how we got to where we are in terms of our understanding. It was simple desire.
Yeah.
Have a deep desire and stay focused on your desire to be on the frequency of the universe. But thank you.
So, yeah, thank you, Pastor. And I think that's why, again, in terms of our affirmations or concepts, but the proof of desire is in the pursuit. And so when we pursue that peace, when we pursue that, that desire, then that's just, again, part of that cosmic vibration, being able to balance with, our mindset in terms of our brain wavelengths. That again, something that we can talk about at another time. But absolutely, Pastor, I appreciate your response. I'm done.
Thank you.
Anyone else about anything we talked about yesterday? Because like I said, a lot of stuff was said, and
There was there was something that Archie said about consciousness. That what's that again, Ron? You mentioned it came back to me yesterday. I mean, to a few.
yeah, I can find it again. Uh,
Do you remember? It was.
yeah, something about it was on the same because I talked to Kathy about it. Let me find it. I don't want to hold us here. Bringing she was talking about reaching a higher level, and she say when you bring it into consciousness, and I wrote down how do you bring that into consciousness, and we didn't get a chance to go back there. But I when I was talking to Kathy, what did you say about that? Because you said it was the same that Pastor put it in different words. Do you remember? Is she on? I know she on.
Um, Audrey, do you remember while Kathy's getting on?
I don't quite remember what I said. Grand Rising, everybody.
Grand Rising.
But I was saying how
What
I
was
don't
it?
know.
What was it in reference to, though? That's what I'm trying to get.
Yeah, that
It was in reference to who do we pray to?
yeah.
And I was saying how for me, um, it became a pursuit of tapping into the higher consciousness or something like that. Um,
Yeah, it was something along.
anyway, other than that, I just don't remember.
Thank you. Kathy? Um,
Yeah, I brought it up to Kathy, and we talked about it for a minute, and I don't remember her reply.
but I see her number. Um, she may not be at the,
Yeah, she might not be on a
yeah.
close to, yeah.
But anyway, that I,
Mindset. That's what she told me. I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you. She said what Audra said about bringing it into a different consciousness, a higher consciousness, is the same thing when you talk about mindset, taking it to another mindset. That's what she told me.
and that's okay. I got you. That mindset thing is that's the 21 days.
That's the 21 days. Yeah. Okay.
That connects to the 21 days for your mindset to change.
I think that the thing that got me on yesterday is my concept of meditation was probably tied to my concept of religion. I'm looking at some grand thing that I need to do. I need to find a space, a physical space to go in a certain room and certain kind of light or the certain breathing, certain kind of way. And everybody that spoke yesterday really simplified this thing. You're talking about your desire, you're talking about your heart, you're talking about or again setting that intent based on your desire and it can be something as simple as wanting to be a better person. It can be something more uh, uh, to do with the state of where we are as a people. It can be anything. You have the ability because of who you are. And the whole thing is if I really, really, really see that I am being a Kabbalah means that I am God, there is nothing that cannot be done. That kind of set in yesterday. Although I say I knew it, it kind of set in for me.
Ron,
Yes.
hi. This is Kathy. I had stepped away from my phone for a moment because I'm in the car, and I was just going to add to what you were saying right now. I love how you said you realize there's nothing big and grand, because even sometimes it can be as simple as sitting in the sunlight, absorbing the rays of the sun, and just re-energizing, drawing the energy from the sun with no words that have to be said. Or well, we've already established
Yeah.
you don't have to multiply words, but it can be as simple as just sitting in the sun and drawing the energy for the day, for the sun to prepare you for what you may face today. And so I'm glad that it was simplified for you, because I think your approach is the right approach, however you feel you need to do when you go into it. But
Hmm.
it doesn't have to be anything grand and difficult. And I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kathy.
Before we move forward with this, without discussion and understanding, are there any questions about meditation? Uh, because there are some things that we keep coming back to, and the reason we keep coming back to them is because we are able to express them in a simpler way, see them more clearly than we did in the past. So I'd be interested in knowing if there is anyone who has any questions about meditation. Because I think the bottom line is there's no set pattern at all. And if you try setting patterns for what you do, it becomes a religion.
I have
And,
a que-
I just, I yield. Go ahead.
My question is if you would talk a little bit more about the 21 day. I've heard it mentioned today and yesterday, but I feel like I'm missing something.
okay. Well, I was talking about the neuroscientists the who spoke in a video, and one of the things she was talking about was the length of time that it takes to change your the way you think. And she was talking about it in 21 days. If you are consistent uh, in, in your desires, and we're talking about positivity, we're talking about knowing that who we are in terms of being the divine entities in the earth. In 21 days, your mindset will shift. Your brain will begin to pick up on those things that relate to spirituality with the much easier, and then your vocabulary that is antithetical to who you are will begin to wane, if not disappear altogether eventually. But the whole concept about 21 days, acclimation comes between 21 and 30 days with anything that you do, if you do it that long. Acclimation comes. Acclimation doesn't, it's not saying that.
Maybe give my invitations for 4 days.
Mute your phone, please.
I come from. Anyway,
Acclimation is talking about
that's
the
another
way your brain functions.
3 weeks to change a habit. It's basically.
Mom, we can hear you.
Um, the way your brain adjusts to your thoughts. Excuse me. The way your brain adjusts to your thoughts in that length of time, and consistency is usually one of the issues that you face, and the reason is because we are constantly bombarded, or we're constantly inundated with the thoughts that we have been indoctrinated with all of our lives. And we come in contact with those thoughts every single day of our life. So it's almost like there is a constant conversation with yourself to ensure that you don't, that you're not inconsistent with what we're talking with the change that you desire. Does that help you, Vermeer?
Yes, it does. Thank you so much. It
Thank
does.
you. Okay. Nicholas?
Hey everyone. If you've heard that uh uh the idea, I think it's well, the scientific fact or whatever, but the idea that your cells in your body change out every 7 years, I believe it is.
All right.
Um, so imagine that same concept, but just with more as you get into more and more subtle levels of energy, that time speeds up. So but it follows cyclical patterns. So in the same way that it takes, roughly 7 years for your body's cells to change out, there are cycles of 7 as it relates to your mind that you can sort of flush out or change habits. So 21 is 3 cycles of 7, So it's that same concept wherein if you set the direction of your intent and are consistent, as we just said, for a particular amount of time, it then deeply affects those sort of deeply held patterns of thinking and perception, etc., depending on what you want to do. So it's just using those sort of cyclical patterns of energy and consciousness that we exist within to change out that fundamental habit or belief or behavior or thinking or perception or whatever it is that you want to apply that to. But it's that same idea that energy
Okay.
moves in cycles, that all these things sort of have a metaphysical and geometrical structure to them.
So can I ask you a question here, Nick?
Oh yeah.
This pops into my head while you're talking about it. So the principles of Ma'at, they work in a similar pattern or cycle, or no connectivity at all?
Well, everything is connected in that way. But for example, if you wanted to apply those principles to your thinking and your behavior, it would it's kind of like they would begin to take hold at a more deep root after a certain amount of time. And we all know this, the more you repeat something, the more you learn something, the greater amount of time you practice something, the more deeply it takes root. And
Okay.
this is just talking about that. Some of the sort of metaphysical and spiritual timing, I guess you could say, behind some of these cycles. But as I said, the further away from the physical you get, the faster things go.
Yeah.
And the
Okay.
closer to the physical, the slower things go.
So it's not like having to repeat the principles of Mayat. It's not like that at all.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't have to sit there and be like, want to necessarily.
It's not like woke behavior.
Yeah.
So it's when something resonates, that is when it's entering your deep
Consciousness.
And as we continue to search, our desire grows, it becomes more
You say a part of your
natural.
being.
Become more part of you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Well, that's interesting that you mentioned the 7 cycles, because there's 7 principles of Ma'at, and then there's 42 affirmations, which is 42 is a multiple of 7. So interesting.
There are 7 chakras.
Yeah.
All of these things are, as I said, geometrically connected to how energy works, sort of within you and within your conscious awareness.
Hmm.
And also,
Okay, this might sound random, but 7 Harry Potter books. I'm not kidding about that either, because I did a video on this like years and years ago. Each one of them is kind of tied to a different chakra. And I don't know if she did that on purpose or whatever, it doesn't matter, but I'm just saying all of these things as they arise from our subconscious are still connected to these fundamental patterns that we all sort of exist within the context of.
And it's interesting because we're talking about these multiples of 7, and at the end of each one of them, something happens. The 7 years, all your cells in your body have changed. 21 days, your thoughts patterns change, your mindset changes. All these are multiples of 7. But you know what's interesting to me about that is after 7 comes 8. So after you completed these cycles of 7, you have a new beginning.
That was it just made me think too. It in scripture, 7 is all over scripture, you know.
Yeah.
I was thinking about the rotating of the crops. Was it every 7 years or something like that? But you do something every 7 years, and then you do something at the 49th year with your field or your crops. And I always think about that, your consciousness. So yeah, all that's connected. I'll have to look at that because that's interesting. I had not thought about it from there.
Hey, Brian.
Yes,
I was
sir.
thinking the same thing what you were just thinking about the crop.
Yeah.
The reason they plant for them 7 years in that crop, they gonna yield good fruit. But that land have to be sought and replenished again for I don't know how long, and then they'll be able to use that land again, but they have to plant somewhere else during that time, and that land is setting and get the nutrient stuff back in it. Because when you something is getting all the nourishments out of the ground and you're not putting nothing back, that's why the ground has to sit for that 7 years so they can put back into it, put it all with all the food and stuff that took out of it. And so that's the reason for them 7 years.
I remember that, Charles. I remember my dad and my uncles getting out there and talk about rotating crops and leaving this or not planting in this field or doing that. And yeah, I remember all those days.
Right, right.
Well, yeah, again, it's multiples of 7. I do believe that nothing is haphazardly done or said. So I do believe that there is something major in terms of our understandings that someone is going to be shown from this number 7, because it's far more than what we think it is. And I say that without even knowing what we think it is, in
Yeah.
totality, but it's always something more, is what I'm trying to say.
GC, did you want to add something? I saw you try to get on.
No, Sister Jackie, we haven't forgotten you, dear.
Okay.
No, Ron, I just wanted to, concur what RG had already said in terms of the 7 principles of Maya. But in addition, there are 7 levels of the soul. And when we talk about the soul, we're talking again about looking at Kai, which is the spirit. But if we look at conception to resurrection, in all of the ages of our being, the last level of 7 talks about at mule. Now, at mule is all of the ages, again, from 0 to whatever age you are. There's that connection in terms of the 7 souls. And so it's just something, again, when we talk about 777, and I think I might have shared, with Nick and those of you in terms of the heart knowledge 777. And that's what came to my spirit, in terms of appreciating the 7 principles, of Maya being connected to the 7 chakra system that Nick spoke of, and then at the same time, the number 7 in general. So, like Pastor said, there's no coincidental, but I think to be able to appreciate just being open, to how nature continues to teach us, through the grammatics of numbers. I'm done.
Any other comments or questions about this aspect of our conversation this morning? Jackie?
Yes. I was just going to say, after speaking with you and Kathy, and it brought more clarity, and I'm more aware of when I am meditating. And it helped me when you told Ron it's not an obstacle, or I'm paraphrasing, but it helped me to know that there's no wrong way to meditate, because I'm constantly wanting to know or questioning myself, am I doing it right, or and so the more that I've spoken with you and Kathy, and you guys have brought clarity, I'm more conscious now of when I am meditating. So I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Thank you. Honestly, Jackie, when you were talking, my mind went back to our time in church and / Christianity. Everything was repetitious,
Mhm.
and what I saw in that, am seeing in that, is the type of repetition that we were engaged in during those years inhibits growth. If you're constantly repeating the same thing over and over again, whether it's a Sunday school lesson, a sermon, or 10 Commandments, you don't grow. You stay rooted in that place, and that is the reason that there is absolutely no growth in Christianity. Uh, is bondage, because if you're not moving forward, then you're in bondage to something, and the question becomes what. And the moment that we move beyond the boundaries of Christianity, that is the time that we started receiving from the case of consciousness, even before we start talking about it, understandings and answers to our questions. That has brought us to the place where we are currently. So, and I want us to also understand that when it comes to engaging in frequencies, or being becoming one with the frequencies of the universe or the hertz of anything, it's all about desire. It's not one way to do it. It's the way that is comfortable to you, how you go about doing it. And the reason so is because all of us don't learn the same way. So it's all based on how you learn, just like all of us don't articulate the same way. So keep in mind that we are one yet many, meaning that being one yet many simply says that we're different, but we're the same.
Yeah.
And that in itself speaks volume. Understanding that we're different, yet we are indeed the same. If anything is going, let me back up. I've talked about, I mentioned, rather, I didn't talk about it at length at all, but I mentioned the thing that we were taught about Jesus, which that was attributed to Jesus, rather, returning and establishing a kingdom in the earth. I made reference to that yesterday. And yet, the kingdom itself is invisible and is within you. So what I see with that is that it's not in you as much. You are the kingdom. You are the space of the kingdom. Because if you are deliverance, then you are also the kingdom. You're the place where you permit spirituality, truth, righteousness to prevail. And that in itself are principles of the kingdom itself. So when we look at this, change, the reason change does not come in the earth if we are unable to embrace and recognize and embrace that we are divine entities in the earth. The reason nothing changes is because we have not gotten a real glimpse of what the kingdom is and who we are in relationship to the kingdom. And what we have seen in the earth as a kingdom is totally different than what we're talking about when we're talking about a spiritual kingdom. So there are so many principles involved in this until it's virtually impossible for you to sit and meditate and go through your mantras of everything that you are. And so the bottom line, I suppose, would be that you just desire to not only hear, but to be one with, understanding that you are the ancestor and the ancestor is you. You are a case of consciousness, a case of consciousness is you. that every gene in your body is a gene of the ancestors. And because every gene in your body is a gene of the ancestors, that means that everything the ancestors are sharing with us is not only available to us, but we are it. That also means that we have a shared not only history but a shared life with the ancestors, meaning that the ancestors. I see the ancestors are not in bondage. The ancestors are free. So when we talked about the other day, when we talked about trauma and being and us understanding that we are not we're not traumatized now. We can't keep holding on to that trauma. When that was said, when Kathy mentioned that, that was a message directly from the ancestors saying, like, you are me and I am you. Therefore, your life is beyond the trauma that we experienced during the period that we were in the earth. And now that you are spiritual, now that you understand that you are the light, now that you understand that you were created before anything else in this earth was created, you were brought into existence. Now that you understand that, then that in itself tells you that not only are you the kingdom, but you cannot be who you say you are if you remain traumatized. What the thing that really stuck out to me about all of this is having seen what was in Genesis 1 when the light was brought into existence. I am saying that out of everything that I've said, one of the most important things that I've said this morning is what I'm about to say. And that is, before there was a body, you were. And the scripture bears that out. In Genesis 1, before there was a physical body, you were. So the question becomes, if there was a physical body, if we were long before there was a physical body, then why do we have a physical body? In order for us to be creators, we are not, excuse me, we are not co-creators, we are creators. In order for us to be creators, we have to have something to work with, something to create. And in order for the carnal minds or minds, material, physical mindsets to exist, we had to exist in a physical form first. And we have bodies not because we need them. We have bodies because we were mandated to create in the midst of this physical world. And being mandated to do that, we have physical bodies to match the ones in this physical world, out of which everyone else came, so they can see themselves in the physicality, but it's up to us to show them who they are in the spiritual. And what we have done so far is looked at ourselves as being spiritual beings, but not quite understanding the totality of what that looks like. If we don't need these bodies, and we don't, then the purpose of them is to be able to communicate with those who we created, who we brought into existence in this world, because we are the ones who actually brought into existence this physical world itself. Because the physical world did not come into existence until after the light that we are was brought into existence. Am I rambling or am I not coherent?
Repeat that last line, Pastor.
We were, we created, we are the light. We were created before anything else. So we are the ones who brought everything else into existence in this physical world. Got it, Jackie? Again,
Do you care to elaborate?
am I coherent first? Am I clear?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Elaborate. What I'm saying is that in the 3rd chapter of Genesis, that's where we were created. When, excuse me, let me clear my throat. When the scripture says, and Elohim, one yet many said, let there be light, and there was light. This has nothing to do with the sun, the moon, and the stars at all. Because they were created somewhere around the 14th verse. The idea of bringing into existence light, let there be light, means that enlightenment, let there be enlightenment. The enlightenment was not even brought into existence until the light was separated from the darkness, meaning that enlightenment is understanding of wisdom. And the enlightenment came out of the darkness, and then it says, let there be light, and there was light. Let there be enlightenment. And if we are indeed the divine entities in the earth, we are the enlightenment for this physical world. And being the enlightenment for this physical world, we are the light of the entity that created us. We are that light, and that light that we are is housed in the pineal gland. And as a result of that being so, then what we actually did was bring into existence physical beings who look like us. However, prior to that, it was enlightenment that created the sun, the moon, and the stars. It was enlightenment that brought the beasts of the air and the fowl of the sea into existence. It was enlightenment that built, that fashioned these physical bodies for the express purpose of the divine entities in this environment to be able to create from no thing, to bring into existence entities that physically looked like it, but yet entities who we are obligated to bring enlightenment to. And we have not brought enlightenment to these entities. There were attempts made to do that, and we call that civilization. When we talk about us as a people attempting to civilize Europe, that is bringing enlightenment to Europe. We did not bring the enlightenment to Europe, Europeans, as we were mandated to do. What we did when we encountered the brutality of the barbaric nature of their being, we actually left. We acquiesced to their desires for us to leave, because the only way we could have stayed there seemingly was to engage in a brutal war with them, and we chose not to. And that's recorded as when it talks about the Moors ruling Spain for 700 years, but it does not include other parts of Europe where we existed as well. So now here we are. What our mandate is now, when we talk about changing the earth, our true mandate is to civilize European mindset. Because the European mindset has never, ever been civilized. It is to bring a European mindset to a place of being enlightened to the evidentiary reality that divine entities in this earth are occupying bodies that shape like theirs, but their purpose is to bring them to a state of enlightenment so their functionality will be congruent with the functionality of the physical beings who are really the divine figures in the earth. The black body is a divine symbol of in the earth. It is a symbol of divinity. It is something that you can see with your eyes that represents divinity. It is something that you see that you are to become, not in terms of being that black body, but in terms of the mindset of that black body. The black body is simply a physical focal point, no difference than when we were using oil for healing or using oil. Oil did not heal anyone. It was a symbol of that. It was a symbol of your trust. It was something that you could physically attach to so that your spiritual awareness would be sharpened if that was your desire. And that's the same principle that is in existence right now. These Babylonian bodies of ours are simply symbols of what civilization looks like, are simply symbols of what divinity looks like, in terms of the representative some presence of them. How does that work? When we talk about the Babylonians being the most spiritual people in the earth, we are the most compassionate people. We are the most forgiving people. We are the kindest people. Yet we have we have received the worst treatment. We are all of these principles of Mayat. This is the principles that we represent are the principles that we are that will be prevalent in the earth when enlightenment is brought to the European mindset. And that happens when the Europeans began to see these black bodies as more than something to enslave or more than something to denigrate. Now, don't get me wrong. There are those who know who we are. However, they have chosen the pathway of greed as opposed to a pathway of harmony. And right now, we are charged with doing the same thing that the Moors were charged with. And I use that word Moors because Moor simply means black. So we are charged with the same things that they were charged with doing in Spain. Today, it's the same charge that we have. It simply was not done then. So what was not done then is being done now. And the reason it is being done now is because of the bodies that were brought to this country, as well as those who were already in this landmass, for the express purpose of civilizing the entire earth, or bringing the entire population of the earth under the submission to the divine principles of the universe. Does all that make sense? Does it resonate?
Yes.
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 Reb, you mind if I interject something when you give me the opportunity, if you don't mind?
George, go ahead.
Okay. Just one of the things I want to add about being a child of a Kabbalan, or as us, children of a Kabbalan. One of the things that separates a creator from a procreator is the character of the creator is always generous. A procreator is not generous, excuse me. So people that I know, like Reverend Richard, Miss Cassie, ST, when they talk about meditating, and it's others too now,
they talk about it from an aspect of being generous. And what Miss Cassie said on yesterday, and throughout the 25 years that I've listened to her or engaged her, she always talks from an aspect of being generous. So when we're not generous, we're always the procreator. When we are generous, and generous should not be looked at as someone who gives you money. However, could it be included? Yes. Generous, from my interpretation, means, do you give that person a compliment? Hey, that's good fragrance you wearing. I like that. So in our walk of life, the more generous we are, the better interpreters we are. And I will use this as an example. Miss Cassie had to interpret a situation between Reverend Richard and I that some of you all were present to. I said something about a platonic relationship, how it can affect a person's psyche. By way of my belief system, I am more than correct in what I said. And what Reverend Richard said, by way of his BS, meaning belief system, he is more than correct in what he said. Miss Cassie had to bring both peninsulas together. It is my belief the only way that can be done by way of the interpreter, you have to be a generous person. So that's one of the things I focus on, George, be generous. I saw something last night where a driver was going to Sevierville, Tennessee, and another driver told him, look, when you go up there, remember you got 3 lanes turning right at the same time. You don't want to be in that right lane. You want to be in the far right lane. That was generous. He didn't have to tell that person that, yet he did. So what shapes our beliefs is how generous you are as a person. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We are taught that is a concept of generosity that is applicable to the physical mindset of this earth. However, we're talking about spiritual generosity. And when we're talking about spiritual generosity, it's different than how we perceive generous to be. For example, if we are not generous in this physical mindset, that simply means that we have not embraced the reality of who we are. Our functionality is in the European mindset. If we are being generous in the physical mindset, which is a type of being philanthropic, if we are philanthropic, it does not mean necessarily that we are spiritual or following spiritual directions. It simply means that we are giving something to someone, and sometimes expectations are there. It does not mean that we've necessarily embraced the spiritual nature of who we are. So what my efforts are to maintain the focus on our being the light in this earth, our being the spiritual entities in this earth, the divine presence in this earth. So our generosity from being the prime source of spirituality and light in the earth is to make sure that we don't have malice in our hearts towards those whose mindset we have been mandated to change by way of creation, created in image and likeness. The way we live currently with this physical / European mindset is not the system of spiritual essence that we have been talking about and seeking to understand and embrace for quite some time now. There is a different frequency attached to what we call the generosity in this earth or physical generosity. There is a frequency attached to it that can be or may not be the frequency of the universe when it comes to giving. Now, let's just face it, even if we're talking in this physical world, the most generous people on the face of the earth is the Cabelonian, period. Hands down. The most generous people are Cabelonians. The most disingenuous people on the face of the earth is the European mindset. So what my speech, my presentation, the principles that I was seeking to expound on were for us to understand that we were in existence before there was anything physical. For us to understand our primary responsibility, for us to understand that this is not the first time that the Cabelonians has been given this responsibility, for us to understand that the reason that the priests and the hierarchy, for lack of a better term, of Cabelonian nations on the continent that is called Africa was packed in a ship and brought to this landmass. It was for the express purpose of doing what we are doing right now. The strongest survived, and this book that we read that has been manipulated, these books rather that we read that have been manipulated, called the Bible, it was written for those who were brought into this landmass, or those of us who already occupied this landmass. Why? Because this is the final showdown for Europe to be civilized. This is it, and bringing civilization to Europe had to involve Europeans. The colonies that were set up on this landmass were not haphazardly done. The people of European descent were brought to this land, and the primary populators of this land were murderers, rapists, robbers, etc., who were taken out of prisons and brought to this land. Of course, there were others who were not in that. There were others who did not have those criminal personalities, but they were criminal minds anyway because of what they did when they got here. So what the Creator did was bring into existence a pool of people who were representative of the entire mindset of Europeans. And in the mix with that, there were brought Asians as well, and the ones who were enslaved, we were brought here and enslaved, and that in itself gave us a clearer understanding of the mindset of the European, and the trauma that we experienced is a message that is deeply ingrained in every one of us. But that message, the purpose of that message was never to cause us to freeze up and not move forward with understanding who we are. That message was for us to help. That message gave us a clarity of who we are, but we sought to become as the European is, and that is when we talked about integration, when we talked about being equal in a system that has no equality for anyone. What we were saying is that we want to emulate the European, and Christianity was the catalyst that was used for us to emulate the European. And what happened, there were a group of people who had questions about this thing called Christianity because all of it was not making sense. What we did not understand at the moment that we were looking at these things is that these questions that we had were not questions that we brought into our memory. They were questions that the ancestors gave us, and we didn't realize it at the time. And by virtue of us raising these questions, we eventually got to a place where we were shown who we are as physical beings in the earth. And that is when we talked about the Kushite kingdom that started in the area that was Sudan and Ethiopia. When we looked at that, that showed us who we are in the earth physically. And from that, we were able to glean the spiritual nature of our beings. And that has brought us to the point where we understand that the hatred, because of the trauma that we went through, is not going to implement the principles of Mayat in the mindset of people and change their mindset. What we have come to understand is our obligation and the reason that we are in this place. We've been questioning, why is it that the European mindset is so brutal? Well, you can't create in your image if you don't have something that's not in your image. So here we are now doing something that the Moors did not do in Europe. Here we are doing something that seemingly was impossible. Here we are doing something that when we were Christians, we thought that God had to do it. And we just had to sit back and take this until God does it. But we have shown by our ancestors that you are God. And it's up to you to do this. And the way we are doing this has nothing to do with government. The way we are doing this has nothing to do with religion. It has everything to do with who we are and the entities that we are to bring to a state of civilization. We talk about all the wars that this nation has started. We talk about the only thing that this country, that Europeans have really produced that is extremely effective in the earth is weapons of warfare. And it's up to us to change that mindset so that as we know, the weapons of our warfare are not physical, they're not carnal. The weapons of our warfare is spirituality, it's understanding who we are. And that transference must be done to the mindset of the European, so that the heart, the heart that we have in terms of love and kindness would be projected to those who are still functioning under a European mindset. So this whole journey that we are on is a journey that Babylonians has taken ever since the other people came from the loins of the Babylonian woman, and with a minimal sense of there being a creative force that is beyond anything in this earth. So now that we are understanding that the creative force in this earth is us. And what are we creating now? We are creating an environment of peace and harmony, love and kindness. We are creating an environment for those who came from our loins to be able to live in peace and in harmony. And by doing so, it is then that we are the creators that we were brought into existence to be. So this thing, this differentiation between procreate and created has very little, if any, to do with why we are in this earth, the reason that we are in this earth. So if we are to maintain if we are to stay the course, rather, that we have been set upon, it is imperative that our focus remain in the area of enlightenment and spirituality, and never forgetting that third chapter in Genesis, that we were created before, we were brought into existence before anything was brought into existence. And there's more in there even starting with that first verse. But I choose not at this moment to get into that because I don't want to leave where we are in understanding the true nature of our being and the purpose of our presence in this earth and the necessity of our staying the course and bringing harmony to every entity on the face of the earth who chooses to follow in the principles of Mayat. Questions or comments? Does that resonate?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. And to be honest with you, this also, the understanding of this, as was was it yesterday? When Barbara was talking about our laying the foundation for the super beings or the super powers in the earth. This is also a part of that foundation that was laid. If we understand the principles of who we are, then understanding the superpowers that we were given, or the superpowers that are inherent in our being, becomes more what more clear to us, and it helps us to see the purpose of them and how we are to utilize them, as opposed to utilizing them for selfish reasons. We begin to engage these superpowers for the purpose of bringing harmony to the earth. I'm done. Ron?
So just wait, making sure everybody's no questions or comments.
Okay.
Yes, I have a question that I want to ask. But first, I just want to say gratitude to everyone. I'm grateful, gratitude that I am where I'm supposed to be, and gratitude for that for everyone on the line. We are learning. I'm just so full of gratitude for each and every one of you. Gratitude. And the other thing I wanted to say was, I don't know if it was on the line, we talked about it on the line about, like first thing in the morning when we were getting up, and not to just jump up, but to just lay there and quiet and peace. I don't know, I started doing that, just not just jumping up, even if the alarm go off, but just laying there and just being in silence. But that's all I just wanted to say.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yep. Pastor, you mentioned just a moment ago about superpowers and not being selfish, using them for ourselves, but bringing superpower to the earth.
Mm-hmm.
What did you mean by that?
Sheldon and Nick will tell you. That was what Sheldon was leading into earlier when we were talking about melanin, because melanin is the superpower that he was talking about. So we're going to get into that probably tomorrow, maybe. I don't know whether we started today or not. Okay, Jack?
Okay, sure. Thanks.
Let me say this. The things that were mentioned that when I was talking about our responsibilities in this earth in terms of bringing harmony, this is actually expressing the capacity that we have to deactivate the Neanderthal gene. That's what this is talking about, and that superpower does that. So Anyway, are there any other questions or comments? Do I see Sheldon? Sheldon, are you
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Okay.
Here.
The explanation, understanding superpowers? Will you be available tomorrow?
Yes, sir.
Nick, will you be available tomorrow?
I can be, yeah.
Okay, there we go. So we will begin to address the question that Jackie raised tomorrow. Okay?
Okay. Okay.
All right. How's it doing, boss?
Anyone else? Any questions or comments? Okay, can we stop recording for just a minute, please, if we're done?
Sure.